Hello everyone, welcome back to this next installment in the Dash 8 Q400 tutorial series. Last time we did 24-hour checks. Now it's time to get the aircraft ready for flying. And to do that, we're going to start off just by double checking with a little flow that all the switches and buttons are in the right position. Then we'll go into FMS programming, few functioning buttons and how to use them. Then we're gonna get ready to start up, and that's gonna be in the next video. So for a very short flow here, left side, double check that nose wheel steering is off. It should be off from the parking or shutdown from the last flight. FlyJSim puts this on by default. Maybe it's just to avoid confusion if people can't steer the aircraft, but the correct thing before a pushback is to have this off. During a pushback, if you start up with this on, you can damage the tow bar and even break it. Very expensive thing to do. Moving on, checking the glare shield. The spoilers are in taxi, clock is correct. HSI is set to the side of the pilot flying for the next leg. Yaw damper should be off. And anti-skid is on. Checking the center pedestal. Radios are on and in both. The weather radar is off. Trims are somewhat neutral. Rudder and the real aircraft would be pointing slightly to the right, since we have to contract the yaw effect from the big props spinning the same direction. Not a problem in this simulator, so we're not gonna deal with that now. The elevator trim, we're gonna have a look at that once we see how our weight and balance is. Power levers are in a disc. Fuel is in cutoff, flaps 0, gust lock is on, park brake is set. For nav source selection, or not nav source selection, but range and what nav aids you want to have on both sides. At my operator, we use FMS1 VOR2 on the left side, FMS2 and VOR1 on the right side. Range, something suitable, most likely for departure takeoff. You would have it at the lowest range, 10 nautical miles. And other than that, all the pumps are off. GPS landing flap, we usually keep this to 15 for departure. There are some technical reasons for that. For example, if you get a flap malfunction, it's more likely that you will be able to bring it to 15 than 35 and stuff like that. It's not something I'm gonna go into here, but we depart with it in flap 15 most of the time. Good. And first officer side, double check that we have enough crew oxygen for the cockpit. 1800 psi if you have 2 pilots and a flying personnel on the jump seat. If not, you're limited to minimum 1500 psi for just the 2 pilots. Forward outflow valve is closed and guarded. And that's about it. You can also double check that the pitot static isolation valve is in norm down here. Good. On the overhead, we are somewhat in between what we would do as before or a pre-flight flow and actually where we want to be. So in real life, we will have all the batteries and the battery master off when we are parked with ground power. To do this, you also have to have the electrical page up. It seems now we're draining because we don't have a GPU. So that's a very good thing to catch. Let's connect it. And now we can see that the batteries are charging. This is very important because you don't have a lot of battery life in the Dash. It's supposed to be half an hour plus, but you never know with older aircraft, older batteries. They don't get reality tested like that, so don't count on it. And if you are like now, well, in real life, you would probably be connected to a GPU. It might not be a noisy one such as this. On most airport now, there's ground power connection through the ground just by cables, so you won't hear if a GPU power supply has stopped. And the only way to really see that is to see the load or lack of load, so drain, coming into the batteries. And if you don't notice this and you're draining over time, don't have to be very long, you will have to spend quite a lot of time with the engines running just to charge the batteries after startup. I've done this twice, I think. One time we had to spend about 10 minutes with engines running to get below the charging rate we are allowed to, according to our SOP, to depart with. And that's a maximum of 0.10 on all the battery loads. So something to be mindful of, not very important in the sim, but certainly something we pay attention to in real life. Just for reference, I think the second time this happened, we had to charge for a little over 15 minutes. So just staying there on taxiway with a full load of passengers, yeah, it's not fun to have to explain to everyone why we are delayed just because we didn't do what we were supposed to do. But right now, we are paying attention again. We have them in the on position. External power and bus tie is on. Ice protection panel, everything is off. For the lights, exterior, we are only in position. Cabin altitude, landing altitude panel. Double check that dump man auto switch is in auto, or else you're never going to be able to pressurize the cabin. Forward outflow valve should be closed. Engine start panel, ignition to norm, selector in middle, APU is off for now. We can choose to either start with ground power or by APU. With ground power, you have to start before you push. With APU, you can push and start at the same time, like more a regular jet aircraft would do. Different operators, different airports, different procedures. I've done both, but in a modern world, they've decided that wear on the APU, starting it and using it more often, and saving a couple of minutes time on pushback is worth it. And if you're in a colder or warmer climate, you will also get bleed air from the APU. So that's a nice thing, so you can keep the cabin air conditioned. Lights inside the cabin as needed. AC gens are always on. External AC power is always off. Recirc fan as needed, most likely on to circulate cabin air. Bleeds off for start. Packs auto. Fasten seatbelt is off until we're done refueling. We always have the no smoking sign on. These are just test and a dim bright switch for the caution warning lights and the cabin lights. We'll keep it in bright now. And these lights are a little bit too bloomy, if you want to. So I hope they can fix that, because even in dim, it's too bright in here for night flying. So yeah, just hoping that can be fixed someday. It's been like that for a long time. It's kind of annoying. Emergency lights, they come on in the pre-flight checks as well. We turn them off before we shut down the engines during parking. Very good. Let's get into the FMS. There's 2 pages that are of special interest to us today: the fuel and flight plan. We're just going to have a quick look here at the init page as well. Double check that the date and time is correct. It's not such a big problem in the Dash 8 Q400, but in older dashes, this is actually something that they have to change, well, semi-regularly, that they forget what day or time it is. And yeah, just something you should do in your pre-flight check. Most important then is the nav date expiration. Right now we're on a fresh December 2025 database. So let's get into flight plan. We're here at Queenstown, and today we're going to fly to Christchurch. We don't have any company routes. In real life we actually do, at least at my operator. So most of the standard routes we fly we can just enter or select here, and then we just double check that. But we're going to fly to Christchurch. We don't have company route, so let's enter the code November Zulu Charlie Hotel. Christchurch International, accept. We got a message, next leg undefined, that's fine. We're going to define it right now. And let me quickly bring up the charts. And there they are. So for today, we are flying from Queenstown to Christchurch via the NPO4 Alpha departure with a Timjo transition. We're gonna have a look at this when we get in the air. Right now it's runway 20 in use, so we'll plan for a IDBA to Bravo via Dopke transition arrival and an ILS to 0 approach. So to get the correct departure in the box, let's select menu, depart. We are going to use runway 05, that's then number 1. So this is maybe a little bit confusion if you're coming from Boeing or other aircraft where it's only line select keys to do the selecting. In the Dash, it's a little bit of line select and a little bit of list numbers. So right here, we're gonna select number 1 and enter number 1, enter. SID, I said NPO4 Alpha. That's, let me just bring it up. It's an RMP departure. And I even think it's maybe RMP AR, so it requires prior approval. I think I saw that somewhere. Yeah. Fly the RMP AR track to METUX. We're gonna pretend we have that training today. Not all operators or aircraft are equipped for that. It depends a little bit also on the FMC version, that it can draw curved lines on your navigation display. The older versions can't do this, so the aircraft are not permitted to fly that kind of departure and approach. But we are doing that today. It makes life a lot easier for us. It's more efficient. So number 1, enter, and transition I said was Timjo. So we can double check this now, but the most usual thing to do is complete the route setup, and then during a briefing where both pilots are involved, you check the chart versus what's in the FMS. So we'll do that today as well. Let's go back to the OFP, bring up the routing. So this departure brings us to Timjo, and it leaves a no link to Christchurch. And if we have a look at the route in the OFP, after Timjo we have to join the Yankee 153 airway. So how do we enter an airway? Well, you select the no link after the last point, then you select list And the second LSK on the right side is Airways. Here we can see Yankee 153 is selection number 2. So it's LS key and then it's a list. It's confusing. Just when you get used to it, it's okay, but it's not always very logical. But we select number 2. This will lead us to Dopke, also number 2. And after Dopke, I said we're gonna do the IDPER to Bravo departure. No, arrival. So we select menu, arrive, runway 20 is number 3. IDPER to Bravo is number 5. Dopke transition. ILS runway 20 is number 3. And we're not going to do a transition here today. Dopke is further in, so we're going to shorten it in a little bit and just press enter and go back to flight plan. Let's navigate down in the list by pressing the next key. So if we bring up the IDPER arrival, we can see that from Dopke it brings us to IDPER, next to Urvax, Idrux, and Divsu. And from Divsu we are on the ILS. So we have a no-link here. That would leave the aircraft not knowing what to do after Divsu. So if you select the LS key on the left to select line number 17, on the top right, LS key 1 right, you will get delete. Press it twice to remove that line, and now we have a continuous flight plan from departure, SID, up to cruise, arrival, and approach. And after the end of approach segment, we also get a missed approach, so we can fly an automated missed approach if we have to go around. So that's that part of the setup. Let's jump over to the EFB. You could of course also do the EFB first. Depends on if you want to do a standard load or fast load. If we first have a look at the zero fuel weight, it says about 18.2 tons here. And let me jump down to the FMS, press the fuel page, and it says 17.8. 17.8 is a very low basic weight or zero fuel weight for a Dash 8. I've never seen it under about 18.2. So 18.2 to 18.4-5 is more within the norm. It depends on a couple of factors. There are 76-seaters and 78-seat versions of the Dash 8 at least, maybe more. And there are a couple of different, at least 3-4 different galley configurations, different hot water setups. Do they have ovens to heat food or not? Do they have the old or new overhead bins? So different things will define what the zero fuel weight and basic weight is. So and last thing that's also going to change, and that can change from flight to flight, it's the galley configuration or contents of the galley. My operator has used to have one setup with what goods they have on board for a domestic flight and one for international flights. So we actually have to change the basic weight depending on that. Basic weight also contains the weight of the crew. So a normal crew setup is 2 pilots and 2 cabin crew. If you for some reason have someone on the jump seat, either a passenger or maybe it's a examiner for a check flight or something like that, you have to increase the basic weight to include that 5th crew member as well. So we had 18,196, so we're going to update that, 18,196. Good, let's select our load today. I've preloaded this with 57 passengers. I have 0 in the forward hold. That's the norm for a Dash 8 on a regular daily flight, at least in my experience. The Dash 8 is a nose-heavy aircraft, so it's more usual that we have to ask passengers to move and sit further back, or even if we're very full and we can't move passengers and we don't have enough weight in the rear cargo hold, we actually have to put sandbags in. It's kind of rare, but I've done it a few times as well. One time it was with actually a full flight of passengers, but we only had 70 kilos in the aft hold. So no one to move, nothing at the back. We had to put, I think, 6 sandbags that day or something. So yeah, it happens. That was a normal morning flight. So it's mostly business passengers going from one town to another and then maybe just going back later in the day. So they don't have anything else than a briefcase with them into the cabin. So no checked baggage almost. So yeah, it happens. Our flight time today is about 45 minutes. I'm loading 2.4 tons of fuel. That's more than enough for this. I think even 2 or 2.2 would be enough. I've loaded just a little bit in the aft hold, and that brings us to about 21,152 ramp weight. That will leave us approximately 25.1 tons when we are ready for departure after taxi. We can see that the CG is just in front of center, so it's a very nice, comfortable CG to fly with. So we're just going to accept this load summary. We can adjust this number down, keybinds here, about 45 minutes. Temperature is 9 degrees. And yeah, we'll just leave these. They don't matter too much. And I don't know if they actually use these for calculating the takeoff speeds in the automatic click spot over here on the PFD, but something within reason here is okay. We never board using both doors. I've never seen a Dash do that. It's only 76, 78 passengers. It doesn't take too long. We do turnarounds with unloading and loading in 25 minutes or less. And actually what takes most time is during holiday season with a lot of luggage. The cargo belts to load and offload the baggage becomes the limiting time factor, the speed of the baggage belts. So just a fun little thing. Let's confirm it. I'm not gonna spend time with slow loading, just gonna do this, and so I don't have to worry about that. So the door's closed. We can fasten the seatbelt signs, and we can go back to the FMS. Next field here is the PAX field. And there's a couple of ways to do and think about this field. If we have it selected and press menu, you can see there's a selection here for average passenger weight. If your operator is using average weight for passengers, and let's say you press 70 kilos here, go back. You see a passenger, let's do the 57. 57 at 70 kilos gives us 3990. Some operators do it like this and then just put the cargo or baggage in the cargo field. And some operators do pax weight to 0. And then they put either passenger number or total number of people on board. If you do this, you have to add all the passengers as cargo as well. Remember, the crew is in the basic weight, so it's just passengers and baggage and cargo you would add up here. My operator does total number of people on board and passengers with 0 weight, and then we add everything in the cargo field. That's just how our ground EFB system works, the cargo system works. It adds everything that gets loaded onto the aircraft besides the standard crew and complement numbers into a total cargo number. So yeah, different operators, different procedures, do whatever you feel is right, as long as you get a gross weight that is correct. So we're gonna get up to about 25,150. Let's see, what do we need here? I haven't calculated this. Let's leave it 0 now and get back to that after we have fuel on board. We have loaded 2,400, and so we need, what, a little bit more than that. Yeah, that is close enough, and in reality, you would never get the same number on gross weight as you do on your EFB anyway. It's gonna be what, about plus minus 100, let's say. So it's a sanity check that you're within reason for those numbers. Same for fuel on board. Right here now, it's only showing a round number. In reality, it would show, I think it's rounded to the closest 5. But again, we put what's correct in here. Alternate, hold, and extra. Again, different operators, different procedures. For my operator, we only put the total number in total reserves. We don't split them. And the funny thing with these numbers are, even if you put something in here and your fuel number goes below a reserve number, you don't get any warning. I've actually tried this during cruise and just entered a new reserve number that was well above what we had in tanks at the moment, and nothing happened. I then put something that was close but below what we currently had, so I let the system cross that number by itself. Still nothing happened. This box can give you messages for a number of different things, and many of them are actually nuisance things, especially during approach. It loves to warn you about stuff, but this it doesn't warn you about. So go figure. But it's a number that we enter, so we double check the flight plan, and we are aware of what we have to play with. So today we can do what they recommend here. They save more fuel because Auckland is far away. It's nice weather today. I'm not going to bring this much. Let's say the total final reserve is contingency plus final reserve. Let's go with 8, about 920. That's a nice number. And this is a little bug then in the FlyJSim. You are supposed to be able to enter a total reserve here. So we can do, what are we allowed to do? Let's do 275 here and 657 here. Okay, so it doesn't add the extra. That's strange. Well, I'm not sure if it's supposed to do that. I know that you're supposed to be able to enter only a total reserve number, at least in the FMS version I have used. So, oh, now it does it for some reason. Okay. Let's go 920 here then. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that doesn't really make sense. But again, this number doesn't really do anything. Just make sure you have enough reserves to reach an alternate airfield, depending on your weather, runway conditions, if you're flying in colder places of the Earth where you have icing during winter, stuff like that. Holding fuel based on weather. If you know that you might encounter snowing when you're reaching your destination, so you might have to hold for 30 minutes and wait for runway clearing, stuff like that. It's a bit of an experience thing as well. So that's pretty much what we're gonna do in the FMS. FlyJSim doesn't simulate automatic syncing between the FMSs, so we need to load that over. In the aircraft I'm used to, this happens automatically. So we can bring up the flight plan and the departure. And we can do a departure briefing. So we would ask our co-pilot, are you ready for a briefing? Yes, go ahead. So we are at Queenstown. We are gonna depart on the Anprov 5 Alpha departure. And the chart is 10-3 Foxtrot, effective 20th of February. And now one pilot flying most likely would read the route, and pilot monitoring would double check the box. So this says, no, there's no full route reading here. Transition altitude is 13,000 feet today. We have a departure frequency 12575, airport elevation 1171. This requires RMP 0.3 or lower to METUX. So do not use for navigation, and speed restrictions may apply. That's not real applicable for -8. We fly slowly anyway. We're surrounded by mountains, we know that. And yeah, it's about approvals. And then we can read the initial climb. Cross Quebec 849er above 6,000 feet. That's in the box. Echo Oscar branch point is Lemac. Okay, what do they mean by that? Okay. Do not exceed 180 knots until turn is complete at Lemac. Do not exceed 195 until complete at Quebec November 861. So that's further out. And we're gonna start out with 185. We can bring that back to 180 just for the first part of the turn here, the first half turn. That's no big deal for us. We can even climb at 160 to get up quickly. Then there's the transition, fly the RMP, AR track to METUX, then proceed on RMP1 transition to Team Joe. Cross at or above flight level 180. That is also in the box. Cross Team Joe at or below 250. And as we can see here in the FMS, it says 49,000 feet. Not many aircraft can go to that altitude. To remove it, press the line select key on the right, and then back, enter. So now that's not an issue for us. And we will never climb in VNAV anyway, so this is just to clean up the FMS. The aircraft would never try to fly above what you set as an altitude constraint on the glare shield in the autopilot. Let's go back to the departure and double check that we have all the points. First one, Quebec November 843, 846, 849 above 6, 852, Lemac above 6.5, and this even says below 11. That's fine, not an issue. And it says it's an arc. Max 180, continue the left turn to 861. Metux, Anpov, Atvor above 180, Timjo below 250. So that's the full departure. After that, it's Dobki and Idper, and we are on the arrival. We would brief the arrival in the air, so we're not going to spend time with that now, just have a quick check that it's there. Very good. Performance, not a page we use on the ground, and same for the other pages right now. Continuing with the setup, we will do the primary flight modes. So to get into the go-around mode, we press this little button on the side of the power levers, and that puts us into wings level go-around. We will select heading and altitude select, and let's say that we're clear to the transition altitude today, flight level 130 or an altitude of 13,000 feet. Very important to have the altitude select in as well, or else the aircraft will just continue flying and climbing through that altitude. The reason why we're selecting heading select over nav or wings level, at least from my operator's point of view, heading select allows you to correct a little bit for crosswind. So let's say we had a left crosswind today. You could adjust it 5 to 10 degrees to the left and get a nice little crab during departure. And you can't, in the real aircraft, at least the ones I'm flying, you can't select nav. You can in the FlyJSim, so you can take off in LNAV if you want to, just to make life easier on yourself. The only aircraft I've flown that could do this was a Dash 8-300. None of the 100s, 200s or 400s I've flown have been able to do that. And the reason is there's a logic in those aircraft that doesn't allow this function in the autopilot to work when there is weight on wheel. So there's a switch in the gear, a weight on wheel switch, that blocks this function until after you have rotated and lifted off the runway. So we're just gonna keep it in heading select today. And double check the QNH. Today it's 1001. And that checks out with airport altitude. Nav source FMS1 and nav aids is FMS1 VOR2. And again, let's double check the VOR. It's not listed here. No. So let's bring up another chart here. We have a VOR and it says 13.6. And we can tune 13.6 down here, both sides. There. And let's check one more thing. For runway 05, there's only an RMP approach, so there's no ILS to tune as a backup in case we have to come back here, so only having a VOR is fine. Let's tune on both sides, and speeds will come when we check the final numbers. Fuel is loaded, so we can change to the door page. That's there. And when we change a page, it changes on both sides. To switch back, you can bring that screen to nav and back to sys, and it will default to the electric page. I'm used to having fuel page when we're on the ground until fuel is loaded. Then we bring up the doors page on the captain side, always having electric side on the first officer side. until we're done with startup and the batteries are done charging. Part of the departure brief and setup would also be for the first officer, or pilot monitoring in this case, to double check that they have the correct nav source, FMS2, and correct nav aids, VR1, FMS2. Correct nav aids will depend on the situation. Some departures have an ADF, some have VORs, some have nothing. If you fly in visual conditions, you might just want to turn everything off because, well, you don't need anything. It can be nice to have an ILS or a VOR just to have a range or an arrow pointing towards the airport. But it's totally personal preference in most cases. Some operators mandate other things, but we're in the sim, so. Very good. That's mostly what we need to do. And we can finish up by just double checking that we have the correct numbers. Gross weight 25,170, 25,196, close enough. We have the correct fuel, correct passenger numbers. So we can read the pre-flight checklist. Flight deck is checked left and checked right side. Battery switches, 4 on. Reading 27.8 volts. Altimeters 1001, 1180 feet. Park brake on. Fuel 2400 kilos. Double check it both on the screen here and what you've entered in the FMS. And seat signs on. Checklist complete. Next up would be to do a pushback. That's for the next video, and in that video we're gonna do both start on stand with GPU and start and push running on the APU. So hope to see you back for that one. Have a nice day.